Hey everybody, today we're going to be crocheting this blue and pink variegated hat. So if you would like to join me in learning how to make this ribbed hat, definitely stay tuned for more and we'll go through this process together. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start with our chain. Of course, you want to wrap it around your finger, pull it through the loop, and then from there we are going to chain 46. So you're going to see me wrap over and then pull it through once, and I'm just going to continue to do that, counting to 46. Once you have 46, you're going to flip over your work, and then we're going to skip the first stitch and go into the second, completing 6 single crochets. So once we have these 6 single crochets completed, you're going to complete the rest of the row with double crochets. From here, once you have completed the double crochets for the rest of the row, you are going to again flip over your work, but you will see that shortly. Now we're going to be working towards the end, and what I like to do is to make sure that I get every previous loop, of course, or that I complete a stitch in every previous loop. And so from there, you're going to see here that I am going to open this original knot just enough so that I can complete a double crochet. Once I complete the double crochet, from here I am going to chain 2 loosely, but not too loose where my needle could fall through, and then I'm going to flip over my work, and once my work is flipped over, I'm going to skip this first stitch and I'm going to move to the second, continuing in the back loop. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that every time that you flip over, if you start with a single crochet, you're going to end with a double crochet for the rest of the row. Once you flip over your work, you're going to begin with a double crochet and then end with a single crochet. So as you can see here, I am ending with my single crochet, and this is again on the second row. One thing I like to remember is if I am working on the first row, I'm starting with a single crochet, but once I am ending my second row, I'm going to end with a single crochet. So it's kind of like you're starting with it and then you're going to end with it depending on however you start. If you begin with a double crochet, then you will end the next row with the double crochet as well. Once I complete the single crochet, I'm going to chain 1, flip, of course, flip over my work, begin the third row with a single crochet, and then continue there with a double crochet for the end of the row. Once you are halfway through, you're going to see that the hat is going to get a little bit bigger, of course. And the thing about it is you do want to measure how many rows or how much more you have. So typically what I do is I will take one end, I'll start in the middle of my forehead, and I'll wrap it to the left or to the right to see exactly where it is going to end up. Of course, if it does not cover your entire head from the middle of your forehead all the way to the other, then you want to continue until it does. Now, the thing about it is typically I will do about roughly 33 to maybe 36. It just depends on the size, the size of the head that I'm crocheting for. But as you see, of course, you have the sides or the top of the hat where we are doing a shorter stitch, and this is a single stitch versus a double. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochets, and then from there on I'm continuing to do double crochets. So I'm just going to continue here with the right side of the hook. And I typically, to make it easier for me, because I know that sometimes the yarn it's a lot to pull, typically I'll just take out whatever is in the middle, at least like one little bunch, and then I'll set that to the side so it's easier for me to pull. We want to continue to go into the back of the stitch.
I'm going to speed it up here just a little bit, but I definitely hope that you all can enjoy as you are crocheting yourself. And for any questions that you all may have, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll definitely do my best to answer them for you. If you need another tutorial on just how to complete one stitch at a time, just let me know and I can complete that as well.
We do have 23 rows. This will be our 24th row. As you can see, we have continued with the single crochets at the top, making sure that, of course, sorry, that's my dog snoring in the back, but making sure that we're keeping that single crochet at least 5 to 6 in the top, so that when we go ahead and join it together, it's going to be easier and it's not bunched up with, you know, larger crochets. So once you do 6 single crochets, you will continue with your double crochet. And again, we're just going to continue with our double crochet to yarn over. We're going to continue in the back loop of the previous row, and you are going to yarn over, insert your hook into the back row. You're going to allow this yarn to go in between. As you can see, it's going to be in between the previous row and the current row, and you're going to allow it to cross over the previous row. You're going to hook it or allow it to crochet, yarn over again, allow the first loop to hook and go under the second and the third loop on your needle, and then you're going to yarn over, allow the first loop to go under and in between, under the second and the third loop. And again, that is how you want to continue to double crochet.
One thing that I like to do here is when I'm ending my row, I make sure that I go into the chain. So after we complete a row with a double crochet, we are to chain 2. So I like to make sure I'm going into both loops there in that chain, completing a double crochet. And then as you can see, it is going to be lined up at the bottom, and then from there I'm going to chain 2. So I always like to make sure I'm going right in so that it can stay even. And of course, not doing the chain 2 too tight so that it can pull, but just so that it can be right where it needs to be. From here, I have completed my 34 rows. As you can see, I am nearing the end. I typically like to do 34 rows for a adult large hat or adult medium. With this one, it does have stretch, so just keep that in mind, that all yarn will have a slight stretch. So as you can see here, I'm going to continue with my double crochet, and again making sure that I'm going into both loops of my chain 2 or my second chain from the previous row, and then completing my last double crochet. So from here, you want to go ahead and align both ends, one keeping your hook onto the onto your project. But from there, I like to make sure that both ends of the hat are aligned so that I'm able to complete a single crochet from there. And with the single crochet, I'm trying to figure out here if I'm going to go into the back or go into the front, mainly because I would like for it to be seamless, meaning that when it comes to the design, you can see here that there's an inseam going up or going down per se, but then you have your ribbed hat on the opposite rows. So I'm just going to align it here to make sure that, of course, it is even before I complete my stitches. And sometimes it may take you a few tries to test this out and to see what works for you. That is totally fine. Even as a advanced crocheter, as I like to call myself, sometimes I still have to try new things, see what fits, see, the design, see how I would like for it to be, and to just go from there. So it definitely, don't be afraid to try it out and to see what works for you, because you can always take it apart and start over from a checkpoint, as I like to say. So from here, as you can see, I'm going to align, making sure that it is where it needs to be and it is even. I did make the mistake of cutting my yarn before, but I recommend to not cut your yarn before you complete the final stitching or the inline seam. Once you have your stitches and you have them, or your ends lined up, I would recommend completing a single crochet. And from there, you're going to line up both sides and complete it where you're going into the back loop of the row that is closest to you and going into the furthest one. So if we're lining it up and there's 4 loops that we're looking, we're going into the second and the 4th loops. And that is the top of the loop per se, or top of the crochet. So we're going to go into the back loops of each. And same thing goes for when you are going into the single crochet as well. Once you have that completed, you're going to see the line going up. The inseam is going to stick out just a little bit, but the great thing about it is we're going to flip that inside out and you won't be able to tell. It's going to be seamless. Only you will know exactly where it is, but as you can see, it's a little bit more indented, but not too much to where it stands out. And the great thing about this variegated yarn is that it's going to blend together. As you can see here, once you flip over the brim, you're going to see that inseam coming out, but that is typical. So because this is handmade, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Some people like it like that, some people love it. It just depends. But at the end of the day, this is handmade. So now we're going to move on to the top of the hat. With us moving on to the top of the hat, we're going to go ahead and yarn our needle or thread your needle, and I like to make sure that there's enough at the end so that it doesn't fall off. And from here, we're going to make sure that the inseam that we just completed is on the outside. So you don't want it to be on the inside because we're going to again flip our hat inside out. Once you have flipped the inside out, we're going to insert our needle and we're going to bob and weave or you're just going to go in and out of the top stitches of the hat, making sure you go back and forth so that when we pull the string, it will act as if a drawstring was there. So that's ultimately what we're making. So I like to pull my string as I go along just to make sure that, just make sure that it's, where it needs to be. And also that I have enough needle to work with. So that is something to keep in mind. But if you would like to wait until the end to pull it all together, you have the opportunity to do that as well. And so from here, we're just going to open it just a little bit just to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. I do apologize about the construction in the background. But one thing is when you pull your string, it's going to tighten the top of the hat. So it's not going to be bunched up or it's not going to be misaligned, but you will have it all together. And depending on how long your string is, you will have to kind of pull it through all of the way just to make sure that everything is there. Once you have completed that, what I like to do to secure the hat a little bit more is to keep it together and then just push the needle or thread the needle in a little bit more, just going in and out through the stitches. From here, it really doesn't matter. I've tried to stay at the top of the hat because when you flip it out, you may be able to see it. But I like to just go through the top of the hat just to make sure that it's more secure. And it may be a little bit tough, but that's okay. You can either remove the needle or you can just go ahead and take the needle out and try a different area. And once I'm done with that, what I like to do is just thread the needle through a stitch, making sure that it's kind of unseen. The great thing about it is that with this variegated, you won't be able to really tell unless you're looking very closely. And from there, I'm just going to take my crochet hook and kind of pull the yarn through. If I have to take some out just to make sure that I can tie a knot, that's okay. But from there, I'm going to tie a knot. As you can see, I'm going to wrap it over or crochet it through and then pull the end of the yarn. From there, I'm just going to tuck the ends into the hat without tying another knot, just because I don't want those ends to move through. And the thing about it is, it just finally disappears. Sorry, my dog wants to say hi as well. I almost made the mistake of forgetting that top string. Or once you look at your work, you're able to see exactly what you're working with. But one thing that you may want to keep in mind is if you forget the top string as well, that's totally fine. All you have to do is take your hook, go ahead and pull it through. Typically you can get it right where it's ending or beginning, and then from there, once you have it pulled through, what I recommend is completing the same step that you just did, where you just want to kind of crochet or pull that string through extra loops on the side, one loop at a time. And then from there, before you get to the end, just tying a knot and then hiding the rest of the yarn. And from there, I'm just going to take that little piece and yarn or crochet through. If you feel like you can get 2 knots out of it, you can definitely do your best. But the ultimate goal is just to tuck the yarn into the hat. And from here, we're just going to look at it. As you can see, the top of the hat is bunched up and is closed off, and it lays flat. And then from there, once you flip it inside out, this is going to be the part that everyone sees.
Allow it to be like this. You can put, once you put it on, it's going to spread out, you know. So if I were to spread it out with my hands, that's how it's going to look at the top. And we are officially done. Just gonna lay this flat. You can see that little lining that we did, the final lining that we did. And from there, you can go ahead and flip this up. Make sure that the brim is showing. You can wear it however you want to. That's totally fine. That's up to you. But you have just officially completed a rib hat. Congratulations. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Talk to you later. Bye.